Today we have in our stand a Ultegra equipped Bianchi. It's the Dama, if I'm saying that right, model, which is aluminum with carbon seat stays. This thing looks immaculate. So if you were going to purchase it yourself, do you think you still need a tune-up? We'll review those details after this. Welcome to I Know a Guy Bicycles.
Welcome to I Know a Guy Bicycles, hanging out with the guy. Hi, I'm Justin the Guy. Obviously, I have a garage shop. Taking scary how to use bikes one bike at a time.
If you like these videos, please like and subscribe. Welcome to I Know a Guy Bicycles, hanging out with the guy. Hey, I'm Justin the Guy. On this old bike series, we are looking at what would it cost you, but really, looking at this particular model, it is almost immaculate. And if you saw this in person or actually saw it online to purchase, this would be a really hard question to yourself if you're not that avid a cyclist or just getting into it. It's like, do I really need to put into it? Do I really need to take it to the shop to be tuned up or looked over? Those are some good questions. So I'm going to dive into that. But looking at this particular model, the Bianchis, they're just known for this Bianchi green. The green is actually coined to that coloring. They've been around for a long time as a European market bike that used to, or most of them or a lot of them come with camping on the roadside of it. So they did over the years some out bikes and so forth, but this one is a gem. I mean, looking at it, it looks very super clean. Even the bar tape hardly has any like dinginess to it and that kind of thing. But looking at the actual bike itself, inspecting it in person, looks like there's going to be nothing that really needs to be done to it. But is there? Let's dive into this. So when I actually get these bikes into my shop, I do strip them down. And by doing so, I take the wheels off first. Ugh, quickly, this is tight on there. And we're just going to go through some point instructions on these and kind of inspect. So if I was a service rider or somebody who takes this to your local shop, you'd see a guy like me or a gal like me that does this. And they're going to go kind of through the bike. They may not go through it in this detail, but to a point where they're going to give you an estimate. So the front hubs are a little tight on this, but that could be adjusted out. The front tire is actually in pretty good shape. The bar tape itself definitely needs some cleaning on this, if not replaced. I pretty much just go for the misnomer or just going, all right, I'm just going to need to replace the bar tape, get some better pedals on there, and cables and housing. With that kind of lift, you're looking at, depending on what you're going to get, probably around 50 bucks to $80 for those parts. So let's go on a little bit higher side, saying if you're going to do clipless, that's just going to be $100 right out of the gate, just for fittings, specs, and the cables and housing. Granted, looking at these cables and housing look like they're almost immaculate, but it could have been cleaned really well, and to an average person that's just looking for a bike may not notice a few things that might cause some issues. And plus, cables and housing is pretty inexpensive part to replace, but it is an added expense for labor and so forth. So keep that in mind. Oh, another thing you do too is you want to double check the chain using a chain checker. This one's from Park. It's CC2 chain checker. Park, so it's like it has marking is 1.25 to 1.5 is supposed to be good. 1.75 is not the greatest, but let's just take a look at the chain on this one and measure it out. So what you do when you do with the chain checker is you go in and you put these little pins on the bottom and they slide right into the chain itself there, and then you got this measuring guide here. And this one, you push it over, and when you get to 0.5, that's, you know, you're getting kind of close. Your 0.5 is replaced, and on this particular one, oh, it goes all the way. And the other scary bit is it wiggles back and forth, all the way extended. That being said, this chain is not just stretched, it's really stretched. And when a chain stretches this bad, this component back here can be compromised. In other words, these cogs back here may have actually conformed to the stretched chain, which will cause this to actually malfunction, or under load or pressure may cause the chain to skip, which could be kind of serious if you're really concerned about putting a lot of load on those. So I would switch out the chain with a new chain. Cost is going to be between 15 to 25 to 60 bucks, depending what level you want. And then when putting on the new chain, I'm going to go through and put a lot of pressure on these teeth when I'm doing the drivetrain. As well, I'm going to inspect the cog teeth here on the chain wheel and make sure they're not getting spiky. I'm seeing flat tops on these, so it should hold the chain just fine. So that being said, the chain is definitely going to be replaced. So looking at that cost, just assume that you may have to replace the cassette. So the chain itself is, I'd say, 25, and the cassette's going to run you about 50 to 60. So all in said, we're probably into this almost 200 bucks on a bike that looked like a new condition. So let's keep on proceeding and going forward. Woo! So looking at this rear hub, feels really smooth, but oh, lo and behold, this tire is flattened out. That means the tread has been worn down. I'm starting to see a little bit of a crackage here. This tire will need to be replaced. The tire itself, anywhere from $25 to $50, depending what level. So we're looking at $250 in parts as we're just diving into this. So looking at the rest of this bike and inspecting, the brake pads look pretty good, and the chain rings actually are not too bad. The front derailleur looks good. The jockey pulleys on the rear look okay. And looking at the crank on both sides, won't know until the bearings are pulled on the crankset to know if those have been compromised. But you can always pop this front chain off here, give it a little spin, and if you're feeling it really smooth or sloppy, that's one problem. Or if you're feeling like a vibration, that could be another gears there. So at this point, I'm going to continue to take it apart, clean the drivetrain like I do with all my bikes with the ultrasonic cleaner, do some frame detailing, and without further ado, let's proceed in going through this. And at the end, we will go through a review of how much it would cost you on a bike that, did I really need a tune-up? At this point, it kind of does, but we'll see. Let's check it out. Well, look at these clean parts. Everything cleaned up really well and very functional. Gonna need a new chain though, and did some polishing with my Adams polishing and compound with the buffers, and the wheels just need some adjustments. Got a new tire on the rear wheel. Also a note on the tires, these valve cores, they were not pushed in on the way. So that could have been a hazardous issue if that would have blown out. So that's one major hazard issue, along with the chain being replaced. And here's the beautiful frame. Polished up, just a few little chips on there. Other than that, it is pretty much ready to be reassembled. Well, to recap, and here we're at the ending stage of putting the parts back on and stringing it up and getting ready for its new owner. This frame, you know, it's one of those things that when it's this pretty immaculate, when I get them, I'm usually working on more challenging and more used bikes. So when I get something this pretty, I get nervous, really, because every time I'm like, oh, is there a crack, or is that why I didn't get used, or you know, a lot of these things go in my head. But going through this frame with compound, cleaning it with the compound as well as the polishing, I didn't find anything wrong with this frame. There's only a couple of little very microchips on this. Other than that, it's pretty much immaculate. And as the componentry cleaned up, I'm just gonna have to take a closer look at that cassette when I'm actually test riding it. The crank chain rings, they look pretty good. I mean, there's some rounded tops to them, like a flat top. So Even though the chain was stretched, it looks like they just distribute the load quite a bit, which hopefully means the cassette will be fine as well. So I don't have to add that as a cost. Just gonna throw or redo the taping on this and clean it up if I can. If it's scarred, I'm gonna replace the bar tape. But other than that though, if this was your bike, yes, I probably would have suggested this being tune-up just because of the chain stretch, and as well as the hubs needed some adjustment, and kind of tricky with those Presta valves. I didn't check them until I actually switched out that rear tire, but that would have been definitely a lift there. Would this need a full complete overhaul is what I'm doing to this bike? Probably not. Could you ride it for a little while? Possibly, for the safety concerns except for those valves. All that chain is going to do is just damage other componentry being stretched and so that's probably not a good thing. But could you ride it? Yeah. Could you ride any bike? Pretty much. But are you going to have the best experience possible out of the gate and actually have a preventative maintenance put on it, as well as a new chain, that kind of things? That would not have happened if you're not taking it to a shop or known yourself how to do those things. So yes, this would have needed to have a tune-up, even though in its immaculate state. Yeah, I come from a school of like, we will find anything that's wrong, just like you take your car to get worked on. But at the end of the day, quite honestly, it could have just used a minor tune-up, and that would include a safety inspection and a new chain put on there, which would have knocked down that cost down probably like 100, 150 bucks. But what I'm actually putting the value into this is look more closer to 250 to 350, the parts and the labor and the detailing and all that. So this is going to be almost a brand new bike at the end of the day for the next rider. Hopefully that person gets a lot of miles and gets right into road riding, because obviously that's what I do, is refurbish road bikes to get people into road riding, so without the heavy lift. Anywho, here we go. Check out these awesome pictures and on to the next bike I go. Have a great day and thank you for joining me. Check these out.